Okay, let's talk about the Kohinoor. You've probably heard of it, right? It's one of the most famous, maybe infamous, jewels in the entire world. Its history is this sprawling, incredible saga of empires rising and falling. But what if I told you its destiny? And really, the fate of India itself was sealed in one single, absolutely earth-shattering battle.
So, that's the big question, isn't it? How did one single ferocious battle on a dusty plain in northern India just change everything? I mean, how did it give birth to a legendary empire and put the world's most coveted diamond into the hands of a brand new dynasty? Well, the answer to all of that lies in the year 1526 at a place called Panipat.
Okay, but before we dive headfirst into the battlefield, we need to understand the prize. What exactly were they all fighting for? Let's talk about the mysterious origins of this legendary stone.
The name itself is just so epic. Kohinoor. It's Persian for Mountain of Light. And what a fitting title, right? Now, its exact origins are kind of shrouded in legend. We're not 100% sure. But many believe it was unearthed way down in the Colonial mine in southern India. There are even these incredible stories that claim it was once installed as the eye of a temple goddess. Can you imagine? And get this. Long before the Mughals even showed up, this diamond was already a legendary spoil of war. It had a reputation. It was seized from a dynasty called the Kakatiyas by the Khilji dynasty way back around 1310. And for the next 200 years, it just gets passed from ruler to ruler, this glittering symbol of ultimate power. Eventually, it lands right in the treasury of the Lodi Sultanate in Delhi. And that brings us right to the eve of our main event. We've got the diamond in place. Now let's meet the two men whose epic clash is about to change history forever. So in one corner, we have the incumbent, Sultan Ibrahim Lodi. Now on paper, he ruled the powerful Delhi Sultanate. But the reality? His empire was basically rotting from the inside out. He was this headstrong ruler, and he just could not command the loyalty of his own nobles. This led to constant rebellions. His authority was super fragile, and you know what that means. His kingdom was totally ripe for the taking. And then there was the challenger. And this quote, man, it just captures his situation perfectly. This isn't the voice of some mighty emperor, not at all. It's the voice of a man named Zahir-ud-Din Babur, a descendant of the great Timur. He'd lost his own kingdom back in Central Asia and was basically living in exile. Think about that. A prince in name, sure, but in reality, a man totally driven by desperation. You know, Babur was such a fascinating contradiction. On one hand, he's this hardened military genius. On the other, he deeply appreciated nature and actually loved designing gardens. And his invasion of India, it wasn't really driven by religion, it was much more practical than that. The income from his little kingdom of Qabuz just wasn't enough to support his followers. It's simple, really. He had to conquer, or his entire dream was going to die. And so, the stage is set. On April 21st, 1526, these two forces finally meet on the plains of Panipat, just a bit north of Delhi. This, right here, is the moment. This is where everything changes.
Okay, just look at these numbers. Seriously, this was a true David and Goliath situation if there ever was one. Babur was outnumbered almost 3-1. Lodi had this massive force, and get this, 1,000 war elephants. We're talking about the tanks of their day. But Babur had a unified command and a secret weapon, a game changer. He had gunpowder, firearms, and artillery, stuff that Lodi's army had literally never faced before.
So how do you win when you're so outnumbered? Well, this is how Babur turned his massive disadvantage into a strength. He used two absolutely brilliant tactics. First, something called the Araba. It's a defensive line of 700 carts, all tied together, to shield his cannons and riflemen. Smart, right? And second, the Tulugma. This was a classic Mongol cavalry tactic, a flanking maneuver designed to just completely surround the much larger enemy force.
And the impact? Oh, it was devastating. You have to imagine the thunderous sound of Babur's cannons, a noise that had never ever been heard on an Indian battlefield before. It absolutely terrified Lodi's war elephants. So instead of charging forward, they just panicked. They turned around and stampeded right back through their own soldiers. I mean, it was absolute chaos. But here's the thing. It wasn't just about clever tactics and new technology. As the historian G. Khurana points out, Lodi's greatest weakness was actually the disloyalty of his own men. A lot of his generals were mercenaries or just unhappy nobles who, well, they simply abandoned him right there on the battlefield. So his army wasn't just defeated, it's completely disintegrated.
And just like that, in the space of only a few hours, the battle was over.
And the entire political landscape of India? It had been completely redrawn. Just gone. Ibrahim Lodi himself was killed right there on the battlefield, and with his death, the Lodi dynasty and the entire Delhi Sultanate that had ruled for centuries, it all came to a sudden, violent end.
And from the ashes of Lodi's spectacular defeat, a new power arose. Babur, the desperate, exiled prince. He was now the master of Hindustan. The Mughal Empire had officially been born.
And of course, with victory came the ultimate prize. Babur's son went on to capture the city of Agra, and he was presented with this incredible trove of jewels. And among them was one absolutely magnificent diamond. Babur himself wrote about it, noting its value was enough to feed the entire world for 2.5 days. He was holding the Kohinoor.
So this diamond, which for centuries had been a symbol of Indian sovereignty, now became a centerpiece of the brand new Mughal dynasty. You see, it wasn't just a pretty jewel, it was a potent symbol of their conquest, of their legitimacy to rule. But the story, of course, doesn't end there with the Mughals. No way. The diamond's violent, tumultuous journey was far, far from over.
So the diamond actually stayed with the Mughals for over 200 years. But then, in 1739, the Persian ruler Nadir Shah comes in, sacks Delhi, and takes it. From Persia, it then passes over to Afghanistan before eventually making its way back to India with the Sikh Maharaja Ranjit Singh. For him, it was this powerful symbol of his people's independence. But its journey still wasn't over. In 1849, after the Anglo-Sikh Wars, it was surrendered to the British and, well, became part of the crown jewels.
Think about that journey, from an Indian mine to a Mughal throne, to a Persian Shah, to a British crown. The Kohinoor's entire history is really a history of conquest, written in stone. And it leaves us with a really difficult question, one people are still debating today. When an object is so deeply tied to empire and conflict, who truly owns it? Is it a spoil of war, or is it a cultural treasure? The answer, just like the diamond itself, remains incredibly complex and fiercely contested.